Sweet, my friend. Well, appreciate your time. I know that I've already briefed you as to what I'm trying to do with a lot of these different recordings, but a goal of mine is to try to spend more free time with people that I know that have some form of success in some way or another, and interview you guys for like an hour, try to see what I can learn, and then try to put that in more digestible content for either other people or for a YouTube channel, but just kind of playing around with it. But appreciate you joining.
Yeah, no problem, man. I mean, the way you phrased it for me, it didn't sound like that. I mean, the way you phrased it for me was like you wanted people with like superhuman ability, or you had superhuman abilities, superpowers, can dominate everything that they put themselves in front of, which is why I was so excited to talk to you, man. That's that's what I wanted to come for, man.
It's a podcast of adversity, so I thought I'd find former crack addicts and people who really turned their lives around, and I just figured
really
you came up first. Yeah.
Intervention. All my family is going to come in, and nice.
I got them in the back, but
nice.
Well, nice, man. You live in Northern California. I live in Southern California, but we're both from San Diego. And for people who don't know us, you're my brother-in-law, so we've known each other for quite a while. And you and I have, casual conversations every other week, so I figured why not start with someone I know, right?
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah, we have a lot of casual conversations, as you call it. Usually it's pretty aggressive back and forth banter, but we get through it without any tears, right?
Nice, man. Well, awesome. Well, like I said earlier, what I'm trying to do is, again, get people's perspective, primarily people who are, older than me, people who have, been working in either the working world or some form of hobby / mission that they've, found themselves invested in over time. And I know that you're a family man that also does well in his career, so I'd be curious, like, first of all, what would you say, or how would you summarize like how you've gone about your career, and how would you summarize like your mindset throughout I guess each of the major events throughout that career?
I'm starting to realize that you're talking to me because I'm old. That's why you're talking to me, huh? But
the rule's 30 and over. 30 and over.
30, okay, I feel okay now.
Some people say that. There's a lot of people who say that they will not chat with people who are over 30. That just seems silly to me.
Wow, I want to meet these people, man. Got so much wisdom.
No, you don't.
On them.
You definitely don't want to meet them. They're the types that'll yell at you. So
nice. I don't know how I would summarize it. Sometimes, occasionally, I do think about that. But especially probably when I was closer to your age, I was probably trying to think about like, what is the theme to what I'm doing, and what is it that I really care about, and all that. Not so much anymore. Now I'm almost kind of set in my ways. Like I've realized, like I've seen a repeated pattern to where it's like you finally understand who you are and what drives you, what makes you tick, and all that. But I would say, like, if I was to, looking back, I would say that that it's really just about following your passion. That's kind of my common theme, which is why I'm so passionate about getting others to feel the same way. Is like, don't think about what's going to make you the most money. I mean, that could be okay, but it's not rewarding. Money is not everything, but it's cool when you're passionate about something and then you make a lot of money too. That's amazing, because then you're like happy at work, you're doing something you love, you're doing something you enjoy, and then you're also getting paid so you can do some fun stuff at home. I mean, that's awesome, man. So I would say, like, just identifying what it is that you are passionate about. And the thing is this is interesting, because I think I've actually talked to your sister about this. One of your sisters. I'm not going to even say which one. I'll let you guess. But but it's like, some people will come up on a stage and talk about, like, find your passion. And sometimes it's kind of annoying. It's like, what the hell do you mean? How do I find my passion and all that? Yeah. And like, for me, it's the passion isn't like find a specific job that you're passionate about. It's try to identify what about a given job did you enjoy. Like, as an example, like for me, there's a couple things I've realized I like to do. One is like enable others to do something, like help them succeed. Another thing I like to do is like solve problems. Like I like something where somebody says, hey, we can't do this, or this is very difficult, and then you go do it. One is to also clearly communicate an idea, like find a way of taking some complex idea or concept and then making it so somebody else can understand it, which kind of goes back into the education piece a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I've always wanted to be a teacher, for example. But it was like all those things is like oftentimes the way people express passions is by a job title, which that is like the beginnings of understanding what passion is. But you got to double click and go, why is it you want to be a teacher? What about that job do you like? Or what about being an engineer or a salesperson? What is it you like about that? Because it's not the job of selling that you enjoy. It's maybe, the hunt of the kill, or the being able to complete a task, in a short period of time and get the endorphin relief. There has to be something that you just really, that drives you. But figuring that out as early as possible, I think, is the key to like getting your career ramped up. Because once you identify that, other people will see it, man. They're going to see it and they're going to go like, hey, dude, that Lee guy, he has it going on, man. He's really into this, and it comes across, man. People can tell when somebody's passionate about something just on how they speak about it, the way they gravitate towards those things and not avoiding certain tasks and so forth. So I would say,
well, personality is big, because, and I would definitely say that, like, I mean, you yourself, you've been in different jobs for the past, 2 decades, right? So you've been in different jobs, but I think a lot of those, passions or items that you liked about your jobs were probably the common denominators between those positions, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. So I'm kind of an oddball. Like if you look at my resume, anytime I interview, it's always, you got to explain like, okay, why is it that I've been in marketing and product management and a software engineer and a sales engineer and all these different things? And it's like, it's just like, what the hell is he doing? And it's, but to your point, there's a common thread, and, it's like, working with others, helping build teams, helping build a system, helping solve a problem, that kind of thing. And in every case, it's the same damn thing. It's just, it's manifesting itself in different kinds of roles. And it's like, be open to going outside. Like, I definitely hate when people pigeonhole themselves. It's almost like an actor getting pigeonholed into a specific kind of role. Like, oh, they're a comedian, they're only going to get funny roles.
Yeah,
but then,
Jim
you
Carrey.
see an actor. Yeah, exactly. And you see him do like a more serious role, and it's like he does really well. It's like, dude, it's not just being funny. Cool. That's not all I'm good at. I'm not a one-trick pony.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting you say that, because I feel like with a lot of literature that I've read, it oftentimes, no matter what the career someone's in or sport someone excels in, I always feel like the people who are doing well are the people with growth mindsets. And I know, like, you and me both understand what that term is, but there's a lot of people out there who I think, they are, maybe more focused on being stable, feeling safe, understanding that, hey, I've checked that box off in life, and I don't want to do anything to tamper or risk it, right? But I think on the other hand, there's a lot of other people who know that, hey, I'm not the best at what I'm doing, and I know that there's a lot I can learn. So you can take that, do one job for 5 years, and realize that, okay, well, I'd actually find more interest doing something else, but it's not something sedentary. It's something that I will, something that I can continue to grow towards, even if you're picking like a hobby, like, oh, I'm not good at an instrument, but I can go learn how to go play the flute. And, clearly there's expert flute players out there, and something that you can never be perfect at, but you taking on that opportunity to find something to dedicate your time to and grow in, I think is one, a good use of your time. And I think two, it's also really healthy for your brain. So I think there's something to learn there.
Yeah, and I mean, part of what you're saying is like somebody exploring trying to find their passions too. It's like, what are those things I can throw at myself to kind of figure out, and maybe it's just the act of, like, in that case, learning new things. It's like, hey, I just love to go through that experience, that ramp. Because I mean, if you think about it, like if you kind of use the analogy of like I don't know, whether it's a marathon or some kind of sprint or something, and what we all see in the stands or from our couches is we see somebody run across the finish line and they win, but the journey to get there to practice and do all that is a shitload of work, so it's like you got to go through a lot of stuff. And that some people love that, like that whole period of exploring and figuring out what does it take to be a master of this craft. And that could be something that is an addiction, like you just love that whole process. And so, I think hobbies and all that is good. But I would say, like, from the job front side, like the thing that sometimes prevents people from jumping or trying out different things is once you start, there's kind of a trap. You start making a certain amount of money, come out of college, and you don't really have a lot of responsibilities quite yet. Maybe you're still living at home or you're living with roommates, so you can take a little bit of risk. You go get the job and you're kind of excited. You get into it, you get a promotion, you get a raise, whatever, and then you get a couple raises, and let's say a couple years go by. And then you're like, I don't know if this is really my thing, but I'm good at it and I'm making good money. And so let's say you want to go explore something else. You're starting over again. So you're like, dude, I'm used to this money coming in. I'm used to this lifestyle I'm living. And now you're telling me to go explore something else? Hell no, I'm not doing that. But the thing is I've done it. And I've actually made either the same or more money when I do these jumps. So it doesn't mean you have to go down, and that's what oftentimes people think is, because if the way I found is like if you could leverage. You have to leverage something that is a known. And so if somebody's going to hire you, you're not going to go to a stranger and say, hey, hire me for this role I have no experience in. They're going to be like, dude, I'm going to start you at base 0, And so what you do is you go to somebody that either the same company who knows you, they know you and say, hey, I want to explore this other role. They're more open to keeping you at the same pay and kind of allowing you to try it out because they know how good you are and they don't want to lose you. But the other is people that you've worked with. So, the best thing that could ever happen to you throughout your career is people leaving the company you're at. And as long as you have good relationships with all those people, now your network is spreading on its own. So it's like almost like seeds blowing in the wind and planting into other things that you can then kind of explore later. But they will also give you opportunity to try new things because they know how good you were at what you did. And so those are the two things is like leverage those, and you could jump into different fields, no problem.
Yeah, and I feel like, both you and me have experienced that where maybe we developed good relationships or we did use our growth mindset and work hard in whatever position we were in to where, 3-4 years down the line, someone that we ended up shaking hands with, remembered us and offered us a position. And I always feel like that's more of like a, I always say like a phase 1, phase 2, but I always feel that's kind of like a phase 2 type of career perspective because there's a lot of people who, if you have no work experience, you have absolutely no idea the importance of, trying to be conscientious in certain areas, the importance of, conducting yourself professionally in front of certain people, but, you learn it over time. And I also feel like, going back to what you said in terms of like try to find your passions as early as possible, I definitely agree with that because, that opens up doors to different things you can try. And even if you try something for a year, 2 years and don't like it, like now you can pivot, right? But I think that there's, on the other end of that spectrum, there's a lot of people who, maybe they're in high school, they're trying to figure out what they want to do when they turn 18, and they're like, well, I have no idea what I'm passionate about, right? And it's real easy for people to just kind of like, either spin their wheels so much that they're not taking action. And I always figured, like, even myself, I didn't really understand what I was super passionate about up until I became an adult and had some, experience, at different companies, going to school, all that stuff. But I'm glad that I pursued trying to make money first because I landed in a position to where, I was making good money at first and I did get some work experience to where now that I'm, 5 years out of college, let's say, like now I understand more about myself and I can switch careers if I want to, or I can go try a new hobby because I know enough about myself and my passions to pick those activities. So I kind of feel like it's a catch-22 in that sense, but it's almost like you'd want to try gunning for the passions first if you know that about yourself. But for those who are freshly 18 and have absolutely no idea what they're doing, I think they should try to pursue some sort of like stable career, whether that's going to be in sales or going to be an engineer or a nurse or something, right? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree. Like you're saying like people don't understand what their passions are early. Dude, I didn't know what my passions were when I was coming out of school. I'm not trying to fake that and pretend like I knew what the hell I wanted. But I'll tell you the key indicators, and it's always kind of, like if you're looking for kind of the secrets to identifying your passions, I would say like the easy hack, and this is just one hack that comes to mind, is pay attention. I don't care what job it is. I don't care if you're mowing lawns. I don't care if you're working at Jack in a Box. I don't care if you are being in sales somewhere. Any job, it doesn't matter. You're going to identify something where you notice that the time went by really fast. You're going to go like, oh crap, it's already 1 o'clock. It's already 2 o'clock. Whatever that is, I would pay attention to what the hell you were doing on that particular task at that particular time where time went faster than you thought. Chances are that is an area that you're passionate about. Because when you're not passionate about something, you are looking at the clock and you're noticing every minute that goes by and going like, man, I'm not making any progress, or you procrastinate. Like, those should go on your list of I'm probably not passionate about this kind of thing. But so I would say that's like a very easy hack. And like I said, you can jump into anything. It could be even in school. Where are you like just totally immersed into the subject
class?
And paying. Yeah, which class are you in? But not only just which class, because that's almost like saying which job title. Like I said, that's not the important thing. However, it's what about that class do you like? Is it the teacher? Is it their method of teaching? Is it the subject? To your point, is it the class itself? Is it a particular niche within that subject? What is it that really drove you? But I would pay attention to those, and the more you pay attention to those things early on, like pay attention to, oh my god, time went by fast, what was I doing? Let me write that down. Like have a journal, write it down. That would be the fastest way to identify your passion. Otherwise, you just got to get old like me, and then you'll finally realize, okay, I'm passionate about this, and I wasted so much time. I didn't waste a lot of time, but it was like, you can waste so much time, trying to figure out what it is you're good at, or even worse, you just kind of go along with life ignorantly and end up where you end up, which is crappy. That's mediocrity.
Yeah, and I think, again, like tying it back to like, let's say young adults who are like, man, I have no idea what I'm passionate about. Like, I think if you're not being selfish enough to spend your time looking inward and trying to figure out these tasks you like and, certain subjects, all that stuff, then you're probably not going to learn that, right? Like if you're totally skating by and, not paying attention to the activities that get you excited or the activities that make you frustrated or even building a plan, like I think you're going to end up being lost. So any message being taken away there, it should be, be selfish when you're a young adult and try to figure out what makes you tick. And, if you can't seem to do that, then go get experience, and then you'll definitely learn along the way. So I think we can all attest to that.
Another hack, dude. I mean, like I'm all about like kind of lazy hacks, right? Because everybody can take advantage of it, right? So it's like I was saying, pay attention to where time goes by fast. Anybody could do that, dude. Everybody has those moments, but not everybody reflects on like, why do I care that the time went by fast? Most people just kind of go, oh, time went by fast, So that's one kind of lazy hack. The other lazy hack is like do self-reflection when you have alone, undistracted time. So where's a good place for that? I mean, let's say you're driving in the car. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people now work from home, so you don't get a lot of that anymore. But for people that do have a commute, it's like, dude, you gotta drive. Like, don't just listen to music and have time go by. And that's okay to do every now and then. But try doing it without music. I mean, seriously, it's like very refreshing. Just turn off the radio. Don't listen to
anything. Dopamine detox.
Oh yeah, dude, and just think, and just use that time to think, and maybe even think about yesterday, like what time went by fast for me, what was I doing, that kind of thing. And dude, that's so easy, and you're not taking away time. It's not like you're sitting down at the desk and going, what are my passions, that kind of thing. You're just doing it while in the car, nobody's watching, man. You're not gonna be a dork, so go ahead and do it, and you'll be better for it.
Yeah, and I think one of the takeaways there is also, or at least something that I've been learning and seeing more true these days, is talking through whatever your problems are, or talking through whatever your goal is. I mean, you tend to, if I'm talking out loud with, let's say, yourself or a mentor of mine, then they'll tell me what, you guys will tell me what you think isn't a good idea, or what you think, may not be a good use of time. So, I mean, there's other adults out there that, people can learn from. So I definitely think that, investing time to try to find out as much as you can by yourself, but be resourceful. Try to find other successful people that who may be able to offer you something, so you don't reinvent the wheel or run into the same mistakes that they're making. And I feel like even tying that back to let's say work, and I want to get your perspective on this, but even let's say for the corporate world that we're both working, right? For me personally, being on a sales team, there's people with the right personalities and there's people with the wrong personalities, right? And I definitely think that for me, I think a lot of the people that I, to what you said earlier, like the people I enjoy working with and would want to be surrounded by are the ones who are hustling and who are the ones who are like, hey, I want to do better at my job. Like, I'm not good at this job, but I'm going to invest time on trying to become better at this job. And I see that, time in and time out. And I read this interesting LinkedIn article on like, it's in the office world. There's the A players, the B players, and the C players. A lot of times the A players are those guys just love it, right? They just love being good at, or getting better at stuff. The B players, maybe they have the right mindset, but maybe they just haven't, studied enough. Maybe they haven't met the right people, but like they have potential to become the A players. And then you oftentimes have the C players where they just don't give a damn. And they're, people are dragging them around. And again, it's like, you probably don't really want to spend too much more time with that people. But curious, like, I mean, you've been in the working world longer than me. Like, would you say the same? Like, would you say that like there's a diverse range of people, like in the corporate world that you're either leaning towards, leaning away from, or what's been your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I do when I join a company is you try to identify the way I don't necessarily bucket them into A, B, C, but effectively it's the same thing. And It's not like I have some methodology I follow, like a game plan, but it's just I naturally do it. And you try to figure out, okay, who are the people that actually make a difference here? Who can I leverage for what? It's all about being resourceful, especially as a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. I know you are, but it's like as a salesperson, you rely on a lot of good salespeople rely on a lot of expertise in different areas, so you can pull in different tools to close the deal. And so it's especially important in that role, but I think any role it's important. But I would say too, like a couple things, like one is the value. Like I think everybody, something to be careful about is like just because like I think somebody is good and maybe I bucket somebody else into like I don't think they're like a solid player, doesn't mean they're not fulfilling a role. Like they're not going to be that A player. But like I'll give you an example. Like like I've had trouble kind of employees over the years, and especially when I was in engineering, I had to deal with all kinds of conflicts and stuff. But you would have somebody that you're like, man, I don't know if this person's gonna, as solid at, these kind of tasks. But then you realize, like, you just pay attention and you listen to what they are. You're trying to identify the passion for them in a way. Mm-hmm. And so you find out and you listen and you go, oh, well, they love to, write documentation about, code, and most engineers don't like the document, so it's like, well, that's like, hey, my A player, he doesn't like to write documentation. I got this B player that does like to write documentation. I pair them together and I got a really excellent pair. So part of it is like, sometimes you gotta kind of, it's just like in baseball, like where you have like your lead positions in the batting lineup. Like you're gonna put all your A players, but everybody has a role. So it's like they're all important, even though you do have A players. So I just wanted to state, like, just because they're C doesn't mean they're bad per se. But then there's like D players. Let's just kind of say D, which is probably what you meant by C. But it's like, it's like there's just people that are like, what the hell are you doing, dude? You're adding like no value. If anything, you're creating more work. But those you want to get rid of.
Yeah, and I think it's and I always have to remember, because like, again, I've been in sales ever since I graduated college, but for me, like being in sales, you carry a quota. Like on an annual basis, you're expected to sell a certain amount, right? $1 million a year maybe, right? So like there's urgency in terms of like, okay, well, I want to get this deal closed in December. Then I know that I have to quarterback an engineer over here. I need a marketing guy over here, like whatever it may be. But, for me, I have that quota, so I have that urgency. So sometimes when I'm like working with other people who don't share that level of urgency, then I start to like, okay, well, maybe I got to start tearing away from that individual. So I definitely think like,
it's like natural selection, dude. It's like, and this is a way, it's kind of like you're identifying, even just by that process you just talked about. It's like you're identifying the A players, because it's almost like in personal life, you hang around people that have shared values, right? Other people that maybe you dislike or don't agree with, it's not like they're bad people, they just have values that don't align with yours.
Totally.
It's gonna be the same within in the workplace. Like, hey, I got these things I'm trying to achieve. These are my
Yeah.
values. And if you're not aligned with them, I'm not going to be gravitating towards you. I'm going to gravitate towards these people that are aligning with my goals and my vision. So it's like
Yeah.
you're naturally kind of selecting people that are aligned with who you are in a way. And it doesn't make
Yeah.
all the other people bad. It's just these people are kind of like who you pick to be on your team. Like you're in elementary school and you're like, I'm picking Bobby because he's really good at, throwing the dodgeball at some of the kids
Yeah.
or whatever. It's like you're picking all your A players naturally.
Yeah, and I think I was kind of thinking through this earlier, but I mean, every company I've been at, we have a mission statement, right? It's like, oh, we want to produce the best product in this space, whatever it may be. Like for me personally, like let's say in sales, if the team that I'm working with, or there's a peer salesperson that I know that isn't necessarily aligned with the mission of, hey, we want to sell more, like we literally want more commission in our pockets, then there may be a disconnect with the urgency, like I said. And I think that comes both with like corporations, but also let's say you run a nonprofit. Let's say you are managing a youth soccer team. Like you're going to have some sort of mission where you want everyone, and maybe the mission is I want everyone to excel individually, but be the, what's the phrase, like you're greater than the sum, like the mean is greater than the sum, something like that. I'm totally butchering it, but the concept of like as long as you have that core and stronger mission statement, then you start to see how all the pieces underneath that align to support that bigger mission statement, if that makes sense.
It does. But I also don't see how the mean can ever be bigger than the sum. Like that just seems impossible.
So what's the phrase I'm thinking of?
I don't even know what phrase you're talking about. I'm worse
man.
than you. You at least halfway remember it. I don't remember it at all.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
if you think
close
about
enough.
it, even though this is a tangent, the sum always has to be bigger than the mean. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a case where the mean can ever be bigger than a sum, but
So I went to a California
negative
public
numbers.
school, so I can't do math so well.
that's okay. As long as the checks keep coming in, man, you're doing
Hey.
math pretty well.
Hey, I'm breathing, but it's funny because I remember, or at least the what do you call it, the last time we were chatting, we were kind of talking through both different ideas of being more efficient in terms of how you manage yourself and how you manage your own mindset, but also how you and once you have that locked down, in my opinion, then you get to start figuring out how else can I be efficient with how I manage my time, the food I put in my body, am I getting enough exercise per week, and bunch of different things that go towards basically just being able to operate more efficiently. And I know you and I went down the absolute rabbit hole with ChatGPT, right? Because that came out New Year's of New Year's 2023, and it's been out for a few months now. And I know that I myself was I'd Google random stuff or search random things into it. I wasn't really using it methodically. And then I chatted with yourself, and it's you can use ChatGPT to give you ideas. You can use ChatGPT to revise a plan. A bunch of different things. But I kind of wanted to open up the discussion towards that because I know that again, people should be as methodical as possible in terms of self-improvement. And that has been a very new tool available to humans that has been great for myself, but I know great for a lot of other people too.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm kind of tech curious, so I like to play with different new tech that comes out. And as an example, this reminds me, ChatGPT reminds me of when Google first came out. And I mean, this is well before I think you were. I can't remember what year you were born. Maybe you don't want to say
97.
it. Or, I don't know. Okay, you'll say it here. Fine. What's your social?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember when this was, but Google was out. No, most people hadn't heard of it. So it's kind of like ChatGPT. You could still bring up ChatGPT with people, and they're like, I don't know what that is. I've never looked at it. That's what it was like with Google. Same thing. But dude, I realized early on, and so did others, that it was really good at helping you find information a lot faster than it was before that. And now we just take it for granted, right? You're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, old man. But the same thing is, like, I see very true with ChatGPT, is it's like the Google experience I had all over again, and to where most people still haven't experienced it. Like, for example, my mom and dad probably have never used it, that kind of thing. But I think everybody can benefit from it, as I was, you were alluding to in one of our conversations. It's like, again, I look for kind of the path of least resistance, man. It's like the things that everybody can benefit from, and it's not a lot of effort. Sign up for a damn account. I don't care if it's ChatGPT or Google Bard or the Microsoft version. I don't really care. But, so some examples of using this, and the stuff I was hoping, kind of show you was just random thoughts I had of, here's how I think it can help you. Let me give you an example. And I think it worked really well in the example we did. But it's like, I use it daily. And so, most people think of ChatGPT as like, oh, let me have it write something fun, or I'll write...
some very specific use.
Yeah, but it's mostly like people use it as like a novelty thing, like, write it like Donald Trump, or that kind of thing, like fun kind of stuff, and that's cool, and it does showcase like some of its power. But the real thing is like, so here's the thing, is like, it's kind of like it doesn't do anything necessarily more than what I could do with Google, but what it does is it does it a lot faster. So if I had to do normally when I'm learning a new subject, or I'm trying to get versed on a subject, or kind of get my bearings on a subject matter, I'll go out and I'll do like, I don't know, 50, I'm just making this up, but 50 Google searches. I'll go to different pages that it points me to, I'll absorb, and then I synthesize that in my brain, and then I come up with an opinion, and then I move on to go do what I do. Now, if it's a random subject, like let's say you mentioned something I'm not familiar with, and I don't really care that much to or I'm like, I don't want to go do 50 Google searches and waste half a day learning the subject.
NASCAR.
I'm just not going to do it. Now, I could do this on almost anything. Like you mentioned something, and while I'm on a call, like on a Zoom call, I'm just like, I don't know what that is. Let me just type it in. And I type in, what is this? And how does it relate to this other tech that I am familiar with? And then it gives me all the points. And right there on the call, unknowingly, I'm getting educated on this to where I then understand the context of the conversation. And especially if you're new, if you're a younger person, there's going to be a lot of acronyms and a lot of things you don't have experience with. And so like the ability to just get up to speed really quick, it's almost like having an assistant with you, like in a meeting. Imagine having an assistant that knows a lot of crap, and you're just like,
have them consolidate
Bobby,
research for you.
Yeah, Bobby, tell me what this means. I don't know what this means, and you have that power now. So it's like it's just amazingly powerful. And so I use it for things like that, to just educate myself on things, and then you can, the more comfortable you get with it, the thing is to get very comfortable with it, because you could, let's say it gives you a generic answer, and you're like, this is crap. Well, dude, tell it's a crappy answer. Say like, hey, dude, summarize this for me, or hey, can you, this is way too technical. I don't understand. Can you write this like somebody that doesn't really understand tech? I mean, you could just converse with it like, in a private conversation, and just tailor it to what you're looking for, and it does a pretty damn good job, dude. I mean, there's some things you got to look out for. There's things like hallucination you could look into and stuff, but don't worry about that quite yet. But it's like, I would say just start playing with it, because it's going to increase the productivity. If not you, it's going to be your peers, and then you're going to look like that C player, dude. And so this is like steroids, illegal steroids for the workplace, man. For like how steroids is kind of that performance booster for athletes. This is that performance booster for all kinds of employees, So it's just insane the power it has. Like here's another example, simple example. Let's say we're trying to come up with names of a project or names of a product. And I could say, hey, here's my product. Here's a description of what my product does. Here are the features. I want it to convey something like, that this product is able to connect a bunch of pieces together and make it so much easier than it's ever done before. Like, just kind of be very verbose in like what you're trying to convey, and then say, hey, here's the name of my company. Can you give me 20 ideas for product names? And let's say it gives you a bunch of names and you don't like it, and you're like, okay, well, can you do ones where it includes the word, such and such in it, or can you do an
have alliteration?
Yeah. I mean, you could do all that, dude, and it just pumps it out. And you may not like all the ideas, but I guarantee you, it's almost like how when somebody says something and it sparks another idea. Now you're getting that. You're getting that with something else to where it sparks an idea, and you'll see it and go like, oh, I didn't even think about that connection, or like that metaphor, and so then it kind of gives you that aha moment, almost like that. What was that doctor show where you go in and then the doctor would be doing something random, like, I don't know, shopping, and then come up with an epiphany and then come back and solve the big case. It was, but anyway, it's like, it's like you have those epiphanies. Some old person show probably. You're like, I don't know what that is.
Well, I feel like the major takeaway is that, because I know a lot of people talk about, ChatGPT is going to replace, this job, replace that job. And I definitely think that there will be some of that, but I think more people will be using it as an extension. So like you and your job, you already know what you're doing. Let's say, again, tying it back to me, like I know what I'm doing from a sales perspective. Like, okay, I need to send emails to these people. I need to call these people. A lot of stuff where I know what I'm doing on a week-to-week basis. But any time where I'm going to spend hours doing the research, I can just expedite all of that and use ChatGPT to do that. Or even if I say, okay, well, here's a new target. Here's a new target I want to try to sell to. So I need to come up with, emails that I think would be very compelling to that individual. So now I can use ChatGPT to say, hey, I'm targeting, for example, let's say Nike. Like, hey, how could I write 5 solid sales emails as to why Nike should purchase X software? And it'll spew out some research for me. And maybe I don't like what it looks like, but I can take that, consolidate it into my own words, and then again, that's just saved me maybe an hour, right? So
yeah, and so even take that approach you just said. The next level would be like, let's say you don't like it and you're like, this is crap. Imagine if you did have some opinions on Nike and you wrote that into ChatGPT. Like in this case, you would have to put in more work, but you wrote in your opinion and say, here's my opinion of what they're going to be after. How would I write an email to this person? And by the way, here's this person's LinkedIn profile that I'm actually targeting, and so forth. And so the more you give it, the more you get back. So, but you can also do the very low effort kind of approaches, and that's a good way to get started. But the more mature way is like where you're actually giving it more. The more information you give it, the better results you're going to get. So, but I would say, like, to your comment, you mentioned something like, is it going to eliminate jobs? I do think it will, but but not to the degree that I think people get afraid of. It's not like you just have this mass layoff, but what it does though is if you can produce, imagine you have a BDR that can produce like X number of qualified leads or whatever, but they're also like doing all this research, doing all this crap. But if, let's say you're used to getting 10 a day, 10 leads, 10 qualified leads a day, and now with ChatGPT they find a new innovative method, or maybe the use of ChatGPT connected to LinkedIn and connected to some other things, you're able to boost that to 50. Now all of a sudden I'm getting the equivalent of 5 BDRs out of 1. One BDR. Do I really need 5 BDRs? Maybe my funnel downstream, my sales guys can't handle that much. So it's not like I have an infinite number of leads I'm going to be passing to the sales team. So once so if you have any level of productivity gain, it is going to result in a loss of jobs. Now, if you're a small company and you only have like 1 BDR and 1 salesperson, it's like you're not going to eliminate that one role. But if you have, a team of 20, and now you only need 19 because of the productivity gains, the very modest productivity gains of the other 19, you will see layoffs. There will be an impact for sure. So I think anytime you say productivity gains, that is a chance for either, having more momentum in the company, or depending if they're already at like market saturation, if they're already kind of a mature company, it's going to result in layoffs because that's just an efficiency. That's it. So I think it will result in layoffs. But be the one that's more productive, man. Adopt it sooner so you're the one that sticks around and not like the C player that's just like, what's ChatGPT?
Well, and that ties back to what we said earlier, because it doesn't matter what career or hobby or sport you're in, the people who are trying to do better than they were yesterday are the ones who mostly are the ones who succeed, right? So something like ChatGPT comes out, you and me are trying to figure out, oh, well, how can I take this 5-hour block of research and turn it into, 30 minutes? We're thinking, outside the box as to how we can do that. Now we're leveraging it versus like, oh yeah, ChatGPT is kind of cool. Like, yeah, maybe I'll have it, do this LinkedIn post for me, or maybe I'll have it, whatever. But funny enough, because I was thinking like with me starting out like these types of recordings and conversations, and part of what I want to do with, like, let's say if I create a YouTube channel, right? There's different topics that I want to touch on that I think could be positively impacting on, let's say, the community or young adults, kids, whatever. But that's going to clearly take a lot of research and clearly take a lot of time to consolidate it and simplify it and make it in more digestible terms. But like, if I have something like ChatGPT, I think it'd be a good pilot for me to start using more, right? So that way, if I say, okay, well, how should someone apply for community college? Maybe I use ChatGPT to help research. Okay, well, typically you need to take into account this or whatever it may be. And on the other end, maybe I say, okay, well, how can I get faster at running? I don't know. Maybe I use ChatGPT for that, and then I say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm going to create a 5-slide PowerPoint as to how any human can start improving their running speed. What should I put on these 5 pages? Boom, it'll spew out some good stuff. And again, it's not going to be perfect, but now I have a bulk of that work done. And yeah, I can cross-reference and make sure that what it's saying is true, but most of the work's done. So again, if it's allowing me to be 5 times as productive, I think this would be a good channel for me to, get some repetition in with it and try it and get used to it. And then all of a sudden now I can start using it for my work. Now I can start using it for, whatever the hell I want to use it for. But I just think that to your point, like productivity gain, I want to try to use it for something like this and just see what could happen, see what happens after a year.
Oh, dude, totally. I would say just play with it. You get bad results, play with it more, figure out where you do get good results. Because I mean, I'm telling you, man, I get use out of it every day for different tasks, both personal. It's like,
walk through that, for personal life. Because I remember even when we were chatting a couple weeks ago, you were talking about like, you theoretically could ask, oh, what should I wear today? You know what I mean? Like, you can do a whole bunch of different stuff with it, but to like walk through something like that
kind of stuff. Yeah, but like, well, like, I mean, so just as an example, I'm not a legal expert. Right. So sometimes, like, if I just want to get just enough to understand kind of a subject matter, there's some kind of, somebody was asking me the other day about some legal issues and having to do with like tenant law. And I know a little bit about that, as you know, but it's like, I'm not versed on like all the different nuances of it. But I was like, hey, can you explain to me the process I have to follow for this? And then it gives me back answers, and then I'll drill in more like, okay, but what I'm looking for is this, and the particular case is the tenant has been in for this period of time. Does that change things? And so it's like interacting. And so again, you got to be careful with what I was calling, or what's being called hallucination, where it can make up answers that sound really good and you just take it as fact. So you got to be very careful with that. But at the same time, if you have like a base understanding or knowledge, you can kind of almost fact check it as you're reading it as well. But then also just do your own research. But now you have context to do the research. Like, now you know what the law is called, or now you know what the particular provision is called, so you know exactly the keywords to search for on Google. So it's a good foundation for doing stuff like expediting anything you would do Google searches on. You should be able to use ChatGPT to kind of get you started to speed up anything. So that would be a key. Again, I always look for those lazy hacks for like, when should I use it? And if you ever Google search something, then that's probably a good use case for using ChatGPT. So like another example, like somebody was just telling me about a medication they were on, or a new medication that they were going to be trying, and I wasn't familiar with it. Anytime I hear a medication, I'm like, I've never heard of that. It's some crazy name. So I was like, what are the side effects of that? And they're like, I don't know. And I was like, well, wouldn't the pharmacist like go through it and explain it to you? Well, I think they did. And I'm like, well, okay, let me just ask ChatGPT, what is this drug? And what are the side effects? And boom, it lists them all out for me. And it's like, like that would have taken me, a couple of Google searches searches and all that to find the right page. I'll go through a bunch of
throw those pills away
ads
now.
and yeah, exactly. So it was like, and all I do is I just copy paste, put it in a text, send it over, and say, here's what I found are some of the side effects to watch out for. But it's just like, I'm telling you, man, it's like a superhuman. It's like having it. So before, I may not have looked into it. I would have just been like, oh, you don't know what the side effects are. That's great. Because I'm not going to spend half a day going to research somebody else's medication. So it's like, but if I could find it like quickly like that and pass on that knowledge, it reminds me of there was this meme back in the day, when Google wasn't well known. It was, let me Google that for you, and there's still a site for that, and you may have even heard of it or seen it before. But there used to be it was a joke. It was kind of a joke where somebody would say like, hey, what is the time difference between here and Singapore? And it was like, dude, you can Google that, And so it was like, let me Google that for you. It became such a joke because it was like, dude, you're still not using Google. Like, you can go answer this yourself. And so you would go in this page, you could still find it. If you were to Google this, like type, let me Google that for you, you'll find a page. So you go in there and you type in your search term, you hit search, and then it gives you a link to send the person. So you send them a link, and what it does is it opens up a fake Google page, and it types it on the page, and then hits the Google search button, and then redirects them to the Google search results. So it's like, is it like really that hard to go do this yourself? So you'd send people these links just as a joke, because it's like, dude, you can answer this yourself, bro. Come on, just go type it in and hit search. You're done. That's how hard this is. But that's kind of how I feel about ChatGPT now, is where it's like, it's like, dude, there's so many things you can answer yourself and get the answers right away, and at least get versed at a primer level. Yeah, you're not going to become an expert off of it, by any means. I mean, you don't absorb stuff one thing, people don't absorb information that fast, so, but two, it's like you're just trying to get a primer so you can kind of just understand the gist of it to know where to navigate next. So it's not a substitute for experts or anything like that, but it gets you that primer so you can kind of get the knowledge, move on to what you're after.
Well, I feel like with like, let's say the lawyer example, like, I know that a lot of lawyers charge by the hour, right? So if I know that I need to pay for an hour with a lawyer, I'm going to try to go into that hour and use every 60 minutes as much as humanly possible, right? So if it's something tenant related, maybe I'm going to come as researched as possible with ChatGPT, knowing that I'm going to still meet with a lawyer for an hour and be like, hey, is this stuff right? Like, is this correct, or or is it not?
Exactly.
So I think something like that.
And they're probably going to get annoyed, going like, everybody thinks they're an expert, but it's like, hey, dude, I don't care if they're annoyed, if I'm saving $1 and I'm kind of coming into it educated, it makes it a lot. I'm not just going to be that, victim, if you will, kind of in there, not knowing what they're saying, blindly trusting that they know the best thing. Because guess what? Lawyers, same thing. They got A players, B players, C players, D players, and you may have a D player and you don't know it. But the more you understand about the subject, not that you'll be an expert, but the more you understand, the more you can direct your questions to find out whether you got an A player or a D player or whatnot. Instead of just blindly trusting the lawyer you happen to get off of Yelp or whatever means you, from a buddy that recommended a buddy. It's like, how do you know that's a good player?
Yeah, and it's funny that makes me think about, because I was chatting with a work colleague the other day about ChatGPT. We were creating sales emails together with it, and we were
you're telling others?
No, I wrote those all myself. But no, so as we were chatting through and again messing around with ChatGPT, there's a lot of times where I'm talking to people and maybe you and me are having a conversation. I'm like, I learned this lesson in a book. And, the concept was blah, 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 and it applies to what we're talking about. So I used to always find myself, like, bringing that up. And it's funny because when I was talking to a colleague of mine, I talked about, like, why don't we just use ChatGPT to summarize the book? I recommended a couple books for the guy, and, maybe he's going to want to read it, maybe he won't. But, you can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, please summarize the chapters of X book. And all of a sudden, I can send him 3 summaries of these books, and he can determine which one he wants to invest in buying the actual book, or more importantly, invest in the time to reading that book and getting the the dirty details of it. But it's something I've been using more myself lately, and recommending to other people. But it's just again kind of ties into what we're talking about with expediting and using it as more of an extension of what I'm already doing.
Oh, dude, that's amazing. It's like getting a personalized summary of a book. Like imagine in a bookstore and you're trying to decide what book to get.
You're looking at the front cover.
Yeah, the front cover or the back. Yeah, you look at the front cover and go, yeah, that's a good
Like,
picture.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, looks like a charismatic individual. I'll buy that book. But
Read
but
books
it's
by
like
their covers.
imagine. Yeah. So imagine at some point, like I said, we're just seeing the beginnings of this, but the real magic's going to come from connecting to other things. Like you're saying, like connecting to a book repository, for example. But imagine connecting to your Audible or to your Amazon account for the books you've purchased, and then you say, hey, these are the books I've enjoyed, or here's the books I've bought, and then it we'll summarize it in the context of like those other books, like, hey, how this relates to this other book you read are this and this and this. Here's where it's similar and this is where it's different, and I think you can learn from it. I mean, dude, the possibilities are like, I just got the chills thinking about it. But I mean, there's so many different use cases like that where it's going to personalize it for you. So now these from a sales point of view, because it is kind of like marketing and sales, those kind of use cases, but it's going to be like tailored for you. So it makes it not just a boring ad or a generic ad you see in your browser, but it's like, now it's like, hey, this is really legitimately related to how you think as a person. It's kind of scary. Kind of scary.
Yeah. Well, and what's I mean, and again, you and I chatted about this, but we're starting to see now that ChatGPT is out and available to the public, we're starting to see these companies pop up where it's using the let's say the technology of ChatGPT, and people can punch it in and it'll create art, right? Or it'll create a PowerPoint deck for you, or it'll whatever, right? So people are already starting to take it a step further. And again, like maybe the way that a normal human who's only accustomed to Google, maybe they won't know how to use ChatGPT in that way, but people are now starting to make a buck or two off of just creating that second layer, and again, creating a piece of art or creating a slide deck for someone. But I'm curious, like, in your perspective, what do you think will start popping up in similar terms, like to the slide deck or to the art? Like, what do you think will be a common extension of ChatGPT that people are going to start using the ChatGPT, I guess, plumbing to make new offers, whether accessible on the internet or I mean anything, could be anything.
Yeah, it's to me the possibilities are kind of endless. It's almost like, imagine having this superhuman sitting next to you that's helping you get versed on every topic you need to get versed on in a really concise way. What could you do with that person? And that's kind of like, hey, if I can connect them with this piece of information, or if I can connect them with, imagine, I don't know, let's take Facebook or something where they're focused on like social connections and making advertising dollars off of that by getting you all immersed in it. But like, let's say that they want to find a way to introduce you to other people you don't know yet, but they simply are feeding it the things that you've spent time with, and now it's suggesting somebody else based on like a deeper understanding of the stuff you're into. It's not just some loose crap about like, oh, it's similar pictures or whatever, but it's like a deep, meaningful connection. Like, let's say it's touching on the values of what you care about as a person, and now they're introducing you to other people. Like, that's like speed dating, dude. That's like speed dating social connections. Imagine
it's
meeting
the Tinder
like
on
other
steroids.
people. Oh, dude, it's like, I mean, that's another good idea. Like with dating profiles, it's like, instead of these kind of loose associations or algorithms that are connecting you at the surface of like what you check the box on or things like
how
that.
many people liked me, how many people liked her.
But imagine if it's like, hey, log into, provide your credentials to Amazon, provide your credentials to Audible, provide your credentials
provide
to
your social someday.
Your social, provide all your stuff, and then it goes in and absorbs it and understands who you are as a person, and then finds somebody that's like your mirror, like your soulmate. Like, I mean, dude, it's just endless. And I don't know if you would get along with somebody that's exactly like yourself, but you're like, dude, this person's annoying, and it's like, but it's like,
maybe find someone complimentary,
the yin and the yang,
fed into the system.
Exactly. So you find your yang. And so, but that's all kind of like, it's like a deeper yang than the yangs we get today. So
did you ever see
it's just freaking endless, man. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's
so
only
this is
we're only
almost
at
like
beginning.
the connective tissue, if you will.
Yeah.
So it's like, what can you connect
Plumbing,
it to? Yeah, and provide more insight. So, like, some of the basics you're seeing, like, dude, I mean, for the creative field, like, imagine writers are kind of feeling threatened. Maybe some marketing folks, like content writers, maybe feeling a little threatened. Because it's more real. But then even like creative folks, like folks that create like graphics and all that. I mean, you got you were talking about this, but one example is Midjourney. In Midjourney, you just type in, like, you type a description of what you want, and you have like this. It's like you use Discord. I don't know why they chose Discord, but you go on Discord and you type in /imagine and then a prompt, and then you say like, a boy playing soccer, winning, scoring the winning goal on a sunny day with the sun shining behind him with the light illuminating, and then boom, you got a picture that gives you exactly what you just described. And like before, would that have been like, let's say you're just making a casual mention on a text about like your son scoring the winning goal. I may go out and type on my phone, like search for images and find some meme, and upload it. Yeah. But now I could do like a hyper customized version of exact. Yeah. Dude, totally. And it's like so easy and quick to do, and it's just insane. Like it's like I said, it's kind of like, it reminds me of how, am I going to go spend half a day researching somebody's medical prescription? No, but if it takes me 30 seconds. Okay, fine. Same thing with this kind of stuff. Like, it's just insane how easy it's become to do something that would have taken, like, I would have had to pay somebody, I don't know, $150 to come up with the version, and it would take them a couple days to come back with some. I'm not going to do that just to send you a, like those fields, I would say, would probably feel threatened. But it's
that would be kind of interesting to use it for like let's say like a political cartoon. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, I wanted to check these symbolic boxes, or I wanted to portray this symbol through these types of characters. I was like, I'll probably come up with some good stuff. Dude, I was thinking earlier when. Go ahead. Yeah, earlier when I was when we were talking about the Tinder on steroids, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Her. It was Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah, I thought it was hilarious just because, the whole time he's like falling in love with this AI that he's talking to through his phone or, through his headset, whatever. And then he's like, going through, like fights and going through back and forth problems, blah, blah, blah. And then at the very end, he's like, wait, how many people are you, like how many boyfriends do you have out there? How many husbands do you have out there? And she's like, oh, like 30,000, like at one time. It's like, wow. So it's just kind of funny.
Dude, that is productivity, man, right there. The men, I don't know. In that case, the women would be fired, I guess. I was gonna, but it's like, well, if you got 30, the one that can handle 30,000, it's like, well, you don't need 29,999 of them, I guess. But that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, it is. We're just gonna all live alone in a room and be happy with this, I don't know, perfect personality.
Yeah, I think it's kind of scary. The more people stay indoors, I think, the more tools that allow people to stay indoors, I think there will end up being a backlash to it. I think humans need to be outdoors and need to be active and, chatting with each other, interacting. So who knows, so.
There's something to be said about imperfection, right? It's like it stresses. Like if everything goes according to how you like it, you maybe won't stretch your understanding or expose yourself to things that you may not know you like. So it's like
it's the line between order and chaos. That's the whole Jordan Peterson thing, where it's like, you want to be on that line. You want to make sure that you're clearly stable to take care of yourself and to take care of yourself, but you have to be pushing your boundaries not so far to where you're immediately taking on something that's completely undoable. You want to try to find that line. And they say the same thing with like even child psychology for kids. Like you want to put small achievable goals in front of them so they can get those small wins, and then they can gradually work their way up to bigger stuff versus and the example, I think I heard this on Joe Rogan, but when they were talking about let's say like putting your kid in jiu-jitsu, right? Like you don't want to just put your kid who's brand new to jiu-jitsu with a black belt. Like clearly they're going to get their butt kicked every single time and it's not going to be fun. Like you want to put them at someone who they're competitive with. Yeah, you want them to win sometimes, but you want them to lose sometimes too. And that's what keeps them to growing. But just side
it's like lifting weights, man. It's like it's like you don't come in there and just start curling 100 pounds. But you got to keep, building up and start like with something that's, you could have good form, and you're constantly stretching and tearing your muscles and having it rebuild, back, and then you eventually will get
and then
up
you
to
do the
100
steroids.
pounds. then you use Chat GPT, or steroids. Yeah, steroids.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice, man. Well, we're wrapping up on getting close to 50 minutes. So let's see what's a good way we could wrap up on these calls, because I know we're gonna start doing more of these in the future. Like, I want to do more either with you. We'll bring on some guests. Like, we'll do different topics, different stuff. But like, I don't know. I guess what would you like to get across that you feel that you didn't get across, assuming that this content is packaged up and made available to young adults looking for more stimulating conversation or looking to learn something from people who have made some success for themselves, I guess.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't.
Like,
I'm not,
be resourceful. Always, if you're a young adult, be selfish. Try to focus on figuring out what makes you tick. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses?
Dude,
invest in yourself.
I mean, maybe it's like, if you were to have, like, I don't know, what is it, a motto or a saying? I mean, some of my sayings, like, right, you've heard them over.
Life is easy.
Life is easy, but they all kind of have like a deeper meaning. They all sound kind of loose and kind of
calories.
Whatever, yeah, it's like, you don't want to, it's like, I don't know, maybe it's like asking, what is your if you were to kind of leave with, what do you think a good philosophy, what philosophy do you live by, and why, kind of thing. How would you summarize it? Because maybe everybody has like a similar kind of line. Mine are kind of more colorful, if you will, kind of more provocative. But it's like, it's like, life is easy, man. It's like, I think I was trying to give that to you throughout this conversation, is like, look for those little hacks. You don't have to sit down and dedicate 30 minutes. If you do, great, good for you, do all that stuff. But even if you're not into that, or you're like, dude, I don't have time for that, you make whatever excuse. I'm like saying, imagine you have every excuse in the book, find a way to freaking do it. And so it's like, life can be easy. So it's like, pay attention. I'm trying to give you hacks, man. It's not like you have to sit down and brainstorm and do a mind map. Just think about, hey, time went by fast. Hey, that probably is an indicator I like doing what I did. Okay, boom. That's not hard effort, man. So that's what I mean by, like, life is easy. It doesn't always have to be this, complicated process of kind of moving forward or getting better at what you do. It's like, just these little hacks, man. It's like, same thing, Chat GPT. You don't have to use it. But if it speeds up your job, like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, it's just, it makes it easier. So it's like, dude, life is easy, man. That's kind of what I mean. It's not literally easy all the time. Trust me, everybody has their own struggles and frustrations, and it definitely has peaks and valleys. But it's like, it doesn't have to be as hard as everyone seems to make it, or a lot of people do. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe kind of ending with something like that, like letting somebody talk about something like that.
Yeah.
Then maybe even kind of giving a teaser for your next speaker or some next topics you're talking about, so you kind of draw people into the next show. Yeah,
and I mean, I touched on it earlier, but like, I both want to meet with people who have some sort of philosophy that has been working out for them, both in their careers, and then also meeting with, let's say, people who are really good athletes or people who are really good painters, right? Like, there's some sort of common denominator between those folks. And I know there's a lot of literature out there, and like, one of my favorite books is How Champions Think. I think I've told you about that one, but it's basically like, a sports psychologist who did 30 years of studying with both people who did really well in the corporate world, make a bunch of money, executives, all that stuff, and then professional athletes, right? And some of the common denominators are like, well, remaining humble and remaining positive. And I think, like, you're someone who's, fairly relaxed and try to, keep yourself in like a good mood, so I think that probably helps you get through certain things. And I think there's always an element of like, not taking things too seriously, and that allows you to at least be relaxed enough to get through your day-to-day. And of course, like, don't have no plan in life and don't completely do nothing, but build a plan. And if you fail and stumble, then like, pick yourself back up and just keep moving along. But
try to find the humor and stuff, man. It's like, sometimes you're around frustrating people, frustrating personalities, but it's like, try to find the humor in it if you can. It's like, really, why? Like, this person is really like that, wow, what the hell? Yeah, I don't know, but you just gotta keep things light. To your point, man. So
totally, man. Well,
try to keep positive attitude, man. Keep life. Always be happy. Life is easy.
Stoicism. I'm big on that too, and a lot of people will hear a lot of that moving forward. But I'm definitely down to. We'll do another one of these soon, and we'll maybe we'll bring on some guests, and we'll keep it fun. But appreciate your time on this.
All right, man. Peace.
So